Hi there! In this video we'll be covering the steps to writing a book. Following the tips in this video could make or break your book's success. I've seen so many books succeed and others fail. Let's explore what it takes to bring your book forward. By the end of this video you will learn how to pick a book topic, how to gather material, and how to keep going with your writing when you face obstacles. And stay tuned until the end of the video for an opportunity I really think you're going to enjoy. Let's dive in. The first step in writing your book is to pick a topic. You have to pick something that you're interested in, something that you could see yourself diving into and being engaged in months and even years from now. Think about how long it takes to write a book. It could take months, it could take years, even could take decades. You don't want it to take decades, and that's why you're watching this video. You want this to be a streamlined process, you want it to be straightforward, and you want to finish writing the book. So if you want to finish writing the book, pick a topic that you're interested in. It's going to help you keep going when you want to put the book down, when you want to step aside from it, when you want to take a break from it. You're going to say, I'm so enthusiastic about this book, I want to keep going with it. And that ties into the other thing I really want you to think about is purpose. What is your purpose for writing a book? Purpose is the driver for so many things in life. A lot of times people think that hard work is going to get you from point A to point B. It is to some degree, but hard work all by itself doesn't mean a whole lot. It's hard work combined with purpose. Purpose is the motivation, it's the fuel to keep you going when you want to give up. The fuel to want to keep moving forward when typically you'd stop. You have to have a reason to want to keep writing this book. What's your reason, what's your motivation, what's your purpose to want to write it? What do you actually want to accomplish from this book? Is it a life goal for yourself that you want to be able to write a book? Is it a question, some thought that just can't leave your mind? Is it a goal that you want to accomplish in your career? Maybe you want to take the next step as a CEO or as a thought leader, and a book is a great way to take that step. You have to understand what your purpose is, the goal that you want to accomplish from the book, because that's going to help keep you going through all of the ups and downs, through all the challenges. The fact that you're watching this video in the first place is a reflection of the reality that writing a book is hard. It's challenging. You're looking for opportunities and you're looking for tips anywhere you can get them, including YouTube. And I think it's great that you're looking for tips. I think it's great that you're looking for insights. I'm sure that you've thought about this for some time. You may have even started writing a book and said, I'm stuck. And that's common. It's common to get stuck when you're writing a book because it's really hard. It's one of the hardest things you can do. Obviously, there's so many hard things in the world, but like writing a book is up there. Writing a good book is up there. You could write any bad book and just push it out. I mean, that's not really that challenging. I'm talking about writing a good book, writing a book that resonates. It's so hard, and you really need to feel something inside of you to want to keep going. You know, maybe it's a family story that you want to pass down to your children or future generations. You know, maybe it's just a life goal. It's something that you want to accomplish for yourself. Either way, tap into your purpose, and it's going to give you the fuel to keep going even when you want to put the book aside. Now that you've figured out your book topic and tapped into your purpose, the next step is to gather material, gather information that you can use to write the book. You know, maybe that information's up here in your head. You know, maybe it's in newspaper archives, maybe it's in videos or other recordings. It could be anywhere. You know, maybe it's you doing interviews to talk to experts, to gather the information. You need to be able to gather the material needed to be able to write the book, you know, to be an authority on the topic. And so often we can lean on our own experiences and expertise when thinking about what we're writing about. You know, if the stories are yours, all it takes is you getting them out of your head and onto the page. If you pick a topic that is outside of your skill set, you need to do some things, take some steps to be able to write that authoritatively. You know, in terms of interviewing people, in terms of doing research, in terms of digging deeper, in terms of gaining life experience. You know, if you want to write a book about your career area, your lane in business, and, you know, all the things that jump out to you during this career, you're going to have some career and life and work experiences to be able to write about that. So it's important to think about how you need to gather material, what you need to do to gather that material, the gaps needed to become an expert, because you want to be a subject matter expert through the writing and gathering of this book. You want to become the expert. I think back to a book that I worked on about a baseball player named Ken Caminiti, and I spent 8 years writing that book and researching that book and learning about his life. And I was not a sports writer. I was a journalist, but I really covered news. So I needed to build credibility to be able to write that book. And because of that, I ended up interviewing 400 people to be able to get this authoritative view of his life. If I had not interviewed that many people, and if I had just cut corners and jumped ahead and written the book without talking to the right people, the book would have fallen short. Not to say that you need to spend 8 years writing your book, but you need to be able to gather the material, do the research, and figure out the path forward that's going to allow you to be the expert as you write this book. As you think about the writing process itself, because this video is all about the steps to writing a book, and we're getting there. We're getting to that process. The next step in this journey is foundation work. In order to be effective with your story and your message, you need to understand where you're going with it, who you're targeting, what you're trying to say, and how you're putting it all together. All of these elements are going to come through in some way. I know people who will just start writing and write and write and write, and then they decide later, oh, maybe I'll outline. How about all that writing you've already done? How much of it's actually useful? If you're really interested in making the most of your time and being efficient with your energy, with your resources, you'll want to do this book foundation work at the beginning of the journey, at the start of the writing process. When I talk about book foundation work, I'm really talking about a hook, which is what the reader is going to take away from your book in a sentence or two and how it's going to carry them forward with their life. You know, how is this book going to change their life if they read it? When you think about somebody leaving a review online on Amazon or Barnes & Noble's website from your book or Goodreads, what do you want them to say? You know, this book opened my eyes, it changed my life. It's all those things, but condensed down to 1 to 2 sentences. You know, if you spend 2 or 3 minutes discussing what you think the book is about, you don't have a hook. You need to figure out what the hook is. The next thing is outlining. You know, when you think about taking a trip and you think about driving from point A to point B, think about the twists and turns in the road. Think about where this journey is taking you. A lot of times people will write without getting an outline in place. But outline sets a frame for the writing, and it allows you to figure out what's inside and outside of the frame. When you think about an outline, it's like a roadmap. It's your path forward. When you think about an outline, it's like a roadmap. You know, how do you get the reader from the beginning to the end of your story? How do you carry them forward through this whole story to the end? Outlining can be a mind map, it could be a drawing, it could be a list or bullet points, it could be anything. But it's great to get your ideas onto the page in a coherent way. Audience is another crucial element, and it's something that's easily overlooked. A lot of times when people are writing a book, they fail to account for who the book is best suited for. So they write at a writing level that's too high or too low. They miss the mark. They don't go deep enough, or they go too deep. You really need to figure out who your audience is. And this is going to help you in the promotion side as well, because once your book is published, you're going to want to be able to promote and market it to specific places. If you know the outlets, if you know the places where your readers are already digesting information, you're going to want to be in those spaces. So it's actually going to help you later in the process too, but you really need to understand what your audience is, who you're writing this book for. The key to writing and finishing your book is one word: focus. Focus is the answer. Focus is the solution. Focus is going to help you finish this book. It's so easy to get distracted. Every single time that your phone pings, every time you get a digital alert, every time you get an email notification, think about the time it takes you out of your focus. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 20 minutes. You start going down internet pipelines and you start going on Wikipedia, and next thing you know, you're 5 pages deep, forgetting what you were even doing. You need focus to be able to finish the book, and focus is going to allow you to make the most of the time that you are devoting to writing. I think a lot of times people think about blocking out 2 and 3 hours. A lot of people can do great writing in those long stretches of time, you know, but it's more realistic to think about making the most of those short bursts. I actually think about writing sprints. What can you write in 10 or 20 minutes? How many words can you write? If you pause the video, if you go and write for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, without any idea about editing, without thinking about editing or anything else, without making it clean or perfect, just putting words onto the page and tally that up. Think about how much you can get done in that little bit of time. That's so valuable. When you think about how busy our days are, how little time we have, it's really about maximizing the time that you have, making the most of each little window of time instead of getting more time. If you think about consistent and steady progress, you can write this book. If you focus on writing only 275 words in a day, at the end of a year, you'll have 100,000 words written. I'm not suggesting that you go out and write a 100,000 word book. It's a lot of trouble and it's a long book. You really need a topic that is really, really interesting to write a book that long. But at the same time, if you make steady, consistent progress, if you make good habits, good things are going to come from it. Another mindset element to keep in mind is this. Your first draft is not going to be perfect. My friend Chad, who's a great writing coach and ghostwriter, he actually calls it a dirty draft. And I agree with that. Your first draft is going to be a little dirty. It's going to be a little unrefined. There's going to be things that you want to switch and move around and, edit and change, and that's okay. It's not about getting it perfect the first time. It's about getting it down. It's about getting the words from your mind onto the page. A lot of times too, when I think about the writing process, I think about the steps, the ways that we can go about writing. It could be sitting at the keyboard. It could be going to a coffee shop and writing in a notebook. It could be using voice to text transcription and talking into an audio recorder or your phone or a device or something else. There's so many different ways to go about writing today. But think of that first draft as a dirty draft. You can refine it later, especially in the editing process, especially if you don't cut corners and work with high quality people in the steps forward, but don't rush it. Get it right, get that first draft down, get that dirty draft down. You can go back to it, make changes and make it better. But the first step is really getting the words onto the page and then going from there. If you want to learn more about the steps to writing a book, I definitely want you to check out a course I created. It's called the Good Book Accountability Course. It meets weekly, and every week we really focus on the progress we're making. A bunch of different authors are in this group, and it's just really special to connect with authors at the place that they're at to help them along. We cover different topics around book writing and book publishing every single week. And it's just a chance to build a community of writers and connect with writers, and just really special to see the progress everybody's making. And it only costs the same amount of money as a gym membership every single month. If you're interested, just head to goodbookmastery.com. You can click the link below for more details. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.